Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Go Premanandi. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Puravikacharya Astatara Santa Shri Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Puravikacharya Astatara Santa Shri Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anatakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Bahasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shri Makunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dhama Ki Jai. Jamuna Maya Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Granthad Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Yuga Dharma Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Brihamridanga Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Transcendental Krishna Prasadam Distribution Ki Jai. Go Premanandi. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga.
Haribo. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivara Dhari Jaya Girivara Dhari. Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana. Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Shri Radha Kalachandji Bhagwan Ki. Haribo. Welcome to Kalachandji Dham for our morning Bhagavatam class. We are currently on the 10th canto. If anybody's listening online, 10th canto, chapter 2, and the focus verse is 39 today, but we'll be reading through 38 through 42. Well, first we'll start with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Cheva Narottam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamatiriyet Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtuki. Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Okay, so today's we'll be reading through, like I mentioned earlier, Canto 11, Chapter 2. Canto 10, Chapter 2, verses 38 to 42. So if you have a device, or I guess we're ready. So before we start, I'll give some context of where we are. So we're in the glorious pastime of Krishna's Janma pastime of Krishna. And Krishna is very creatively arranging things for his grand appearance on this material world on the request of the Devatas and Bhumi Devi herself, on the pretext that there is so much sins and challenges happening on the earth, the Bhulok. And so now Krishna, in response to their prayers, is now coming down. And as everybody knows, Kamsa, the great demoniac king in Mathura, he, on the pretext that he is going to be killed by the 8th son of Devaki, has, being as an evil person, he has captured Devaki and Vasudev at the time of their marriage, and now they are in the jail cell of Kamsa, and the idea is that Kamsa says, every time you have a child, you will give it to me, and I will cause the end of that child. And so that happens 6 times. Each time Kamsa comes in and they have a child, and then he takes the child and he kills them. And so this has happened 6 times, and now earlier in this particular chapter, Krishna gave the instruction to Yogamaya, Durga Devi, that the 7th child who's coming is my older brother Balaram. Baladev is coming. Kindly change his location of residence from Mahadevaki to Rohini, who is the other wife of Vasudev, who she's currently with Nanda Baba and Yashoda Mai in Vrindavan and Gokul. And so that's what happened earlier, and now the demigods, seeing that Krishna is about to come, the 8th child of Devaki, Krishna is about to enter the womb of Mother Devaki. Now the demigods are approaching. Brahma, Shiva, all the elevated souls are coming to offer their prayers to Krishna, who is about to take place. And Mother Devaki is seeing this happening in front of them, and they're praying, and at the end they'll make a request to Mother Devaki as well. So please, we can read verse 38.
O Lord, we are fortunate because the heavy burden of the demons upon this earth is immediately removed by your appearance. Indeed, we are certainly fortunate, for we shall be able to see upon this earth and in the heavenly planets the marks of your lotus conch shell, club and disc that adorn your lotus feet.
Something that I took from this particular verse was that is describing that there are 4 special markings on the lotus feet of the Lord, Gada, Shankha, Padma, and the disc chakra. And Prabhupada is describing how these are the markings of Krishna, and the gopis and the Vrajavasis had a lot of good fortune where they were around these lotus feet at all times. And it's actually, Prabhupada says that as a Vaishnava, it is our duty to always meditate and think 24/7, thinking about Krishna's lotus feet. That is our duty as Vaishnavas. Please, next verse.
O Supreme Lord, you are not an ordinary living entity appearing in this material world as a result of fruitive activities. Therefore, your appearance or birth in this world has no other cause than your pleasure potency. Similarly, the living entities who are part of you have no cause for miseries like birth, death, and old age, except when these living entities are conducted by your external energy.
Yeah, that's our focus first. We'll talk about it afterwards.
O Supreme Controller, your Lordship previously accepted incarnation as a fish, a swan, Lord Ramachandra Parshuram among the demigods, Vamanadev to protect the entire world by your mercy. Now please protect us again in your mercy by diminishing the disturbance in this world. O King, O Krishna, best of the Yadus, we respectfully offer our respectful obeisances unto you.
Yeah, so Krishna seems he's coming in different incarnations over the period of many yugas. So who is the fish incarnation? Matsya. So Matsya came to protect King Satyavrat at the time of inundation. The 3 worlds were being inundated, and so Matsya came to protect the population and King Satyavrat. Then who is the horse incarnation? Hayagriva, yes. So originally when earlier in the period of time, Satyuga, Brahma had lost the Vedas to demons, and then Vishnu comes as Hayagriva, the horse-headed incarnation, to protect the Vedas from getting stolen. And who is the tortoise? Kurma comes, and that is at the time of the churning of the ocean, where the demons and the devatas, they're fighting over who's going to get the Amrit. And so in that process, it's very interesting. Krishna is everywhere. Krishna is at the bottom. He is the tortoise. He's holding up Mandara mountain. Even the Mandara mountain is said to be a representative of Krishna. And Vasuki, that is the snake, Krishna says that I am, of the snakes, I am Vasuki. So Krishna is also the snake. And so in every process of that churning pastime, Krishna or Vishnu, they're there in the entire thing. There's nothing that the demigods or any of the individuals, they do on their own. It's everything. They have to go to Krishna for everything. Whether it's the poison that comes and they say, oh, Krishna says, go to Shiva, he can protect you. So yes, Kurma comes to hold up that Mandara mountain because it is so heavy that it was beginning to sink. So then Krishna, as the Kurma avatar, the tortoise avatar, he comes to uphold that mountain so that they can do their churning business. And then we have everybody knows Nrsingadev. Nrsingadev protected Prahlad Maharaj from Hiranyakashipu. The boar demon. Who's the boar demon? I mean, boar avatar. Varahadev. So Hiranyaksha, the brother of Hiranyakashipu, captures Bhumi Devi and takes her under the water, the causal ocean. And then Varaha Krishna comes as the boar demon, and with his tusks, he comes and brings Bhumi Devi up back to her normal place. And then who's the swan incarnation? Hamsa. Hamsa comes. So Krishna, this one I didn't know of either, so I had to do some research. So it turns out that the 4 Kumaras, they ask Brahmaji for what is the purpose of life, and your typical spiritual questions. And Brahmaji, in Bhagavatam 11th canto, it says that Brahmaji, because he was under the influence of passion, because he just did a lot of creation, he was unable to come to the solution, the essence of this question. And then he prays to Krishna and Vishnu, and then lo and behold, Krishna comes in the form of a swan, Hamsa, and then he teaches the 4 Kumaras Sankhya Yoga. So that's the story of that. And then we have Ramachandra, Parashuram, and Vamandev as well coming as a Brahmana. So Krishna comes in many, many different pastimes, many yugas to give different instructions. Okay, we can go to 41.
O Mother Devaki, by your good fortune and ours, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, with all His plenary portions such as Baladev, is now within your womb. Therefore, you need not fear Hamsa, who has decided to be killed by the Lord. Your eternal son Krishna will be protector of the entire Yadu dynasty.
After thus offering prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, the Transcendence, all the demigods, with Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva before them, returned to their homes in the heavenly planets.
Yeah. So now we can go to our focus verse, which is 39. Nate bhavashesha bhavasya karanam Vina vinodam bata tarkayamahe Bhavo nirodha sthitir apya vidyaya Krita yatas Tvaya bhaya shrayatmani Nate bhavasyesha bhavasya karanam Vina vinoda bata tarkayamahe Bhavo nirodha stithir apya vidyaya Krita yatas tvai abhyashrayatmani. Anyone? Na te bhavasyesha bhavasya karanam vina vinodam bata tarkayamahe. Bhavo nirodha stithir apyavidyaya krita yatastvaya bhayashrayatmani nate bhavasyesha bhavasya karanam vina vinodam bata tarkayamahe. Bhavo nirodha stitir apyavidyaya krita yatastvay abhayashrayatmani. Nate bhavasyesha bhavasya karanam vina vinodam bata tarkayamahe. Stitir apyavidyaya krita yatastvaya bhayashrayatmani. We'll do the word for word together. Na, not. Te, of your lordship. Abhavasya, of whom there is no birth, death, or maintenance, as for an ordinary being. Isha, O Supreme Lord. Bhavasya, your appearance, your birth. Karanam, the cause. Vina, without. Vinodam, the pastimes. Despite that is said, you are not forced to come to this world by any cause. Bata, however, tarkayamahe, we cannot argue, but must simply understand that these are your pastimes. Bhavaha, birth. Nirodhaha, death. Stiti, maintenance. Api, also. Avidyaha, by the external illusory energy. Kritaha, done. Yataha, because. Tvai, unto you. Abhayashraya, O fearless shelter of all. Atmani, of the ordinary living entity. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O Supreme Lord, you are not an ordinary living entity appearing in this material world as a result of fruitive activities. Therefore, your appearance or birth in this world has no other cause than your pleasure potency. Similarly, the living entities who are part of you have no cause for miseries like birth, death, and old age, except when these living entities are conducted by your external energy. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 15.7, Mavaivamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. The living entities are parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, and thus they are qualitatively one with the Lord. We can understand that when the Supreme Lord appears or disappears as an incarnation, there is no other cause than his pleasure potency. We cannot force the Supreme Personality of Godhead to appear. As he says in Bhagavad Gita 4.7, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyudhanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. When there is no need to diminish a burden created by the demons, the Supreme Lord can do it in many ways because he has multifarious energies. So here Prabhupada is saying that Krishna is saying that when there is a decline in religion and a rise in irreligion, and in the next verse he goes on to say, Paritranaya sadhanam, vinashaya chadushkritam. So whenever I decide myself when I need to vinash, I need to destroy chadushkritam. Dushkritam meaning irreligious entities, then I descend myself. But Prabhupada here is saying that actually Krishna, even for the fact to destroy the demons and the demoniac individuals, he doesn't really need to come. Krishna could think it, he could just wish it. He has many multipliers, many kinds of energies that can do such a task for him. So there must be something beyond why he comes, not just to kill the demons, because that he can do from just wishing it, willing it. So there's no need for him to come as an incarnation, since he is not forced to do anything like ordinary living entities. The living entities come to this material world in the spirit of enjoyment, but because they want to enjoy without Krishna. Krishna bahirmukha hai bhoja vanchakare. They suffer birth, death, old age, and disease under the control of the illusory energy. When the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appears, however, no such causes are involved. His descent is an action of his pleasure potency. So again, Krishna's Prabhupada is mentioning pleasure potency. We should always remember this distinction between the Lord and the ordinary living entity, and not uselessly argue that the Lord cannot come. There are philosophers who do not believe in the Lord's incarnation and who ask, why should the Supreme Lord come? But the answer is, why should he not come? Why should he be controlled by the desire of the living entity? The Lord is free to do whatever he likes. Abhigya Swarat. Therefore, this verse says, Vina vinodam bata tarkayamahe. It is only for his pleasure that he comes, although he does not need to come. When the living entities come to this world for material enjoyment, they are entangled in karma and karma phala by the Lord's illusory energy. But if one seeks shelter at the Lord's lotus feet, one is again situated in his original liberated state. As stated here, Kritayatas tvaya abhayashrayatmani, one who seeks shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord is always fearless. Because we are dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we should give up the idea that without Krishna we can enjoy freedom in this material world. This idea is the reason that we have become entangled. Now it is our duty to seek shelter at the Lord's lotus feet. This shelter is described as abhay, or fearless. Since Krishna is not subject to birth, death, old age, or disease, and since we are part and parcel of Krishna, we also are not subject to birth, death, old age, and disease. So being mamaya vamsho jiva loke, so being a part and parcel of Krishna, we also are not supposed to be subject to these pains of this material world, the miseries, birth, death, old age, disease. But because we have material desires, and specifically we want to enjoy separate of Krishna, we have to go through these miseries. But we have become subject to these illusory problems because of our forgetfulness of Krishna and our position as his eternal servants. Jivera Surupoy, Krishnera Nityadas. Therefore, if we practice devotional service by always thinking of the Lord, always glorifying him, and always chanting about him, as described in text 37, Shenvan Grinan Samsmarayamscha Shintayan, we will be reinstated in our original constitutional position and thus be saved. The demigods, therefore, encouraged Devaki not to fear Kamsa, but to think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who was already within her womb. Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So here, first we'll chant. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshtarne Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivas Adi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here we're seeing that the emphasis that Krishna is trying to, or Sukadeva Goswami is telling us, is that, and Prabhupada specifically in the purport, is that Krishna is not his activities in this world do not take place just like the ordinary living entities. We take birth and death, and our old age is determined, and disease is determined by the previous karma that we have taken in our previous lives, and then based on those, the results are dictated. And so based on that, we take a birth in a certain place, we have a certain lifespan, we have a certain level standard of living, prosperity, poverty, and based on this, we perform actions and under the three modes of material nature. Versus Krishna does not have a certain designation of, because his past karma, he has now to take a birth in a family of Kshatriyas, and then he goes to the Vaishyas in Gokul and Vrindavan, and now he has transferred Varnas and all. This is Krishna's transcendental pastime. He's not within the laws. He's the governing body. He's not the one being governed by the modes of material nature. So Prabhupada is very heavily emphasizing here that many philosophers in this world, many people claim that Krishna is within the laws and rules of this world. He passed the pastime of him leaving is where he gets shot with an arrow and the heel. And for that, people say, oh, Krishna's a regular human being. He just like us, he got hurt somewhere, got a wound, and then he died from somehow an arrow in his heel caused him to die. So these claims are often made that Krishna is like one of us. He has common activities based on karma, and he goes to Gurukul like everybody else. He goes to school, he learns 64 arts, and then he does his duty in this world, and he becomes a Kshatriya as a king, and although he would like to be in Vrindavan, but he goes to do duty. So clearly Krishna is just another human being that is performing his activities and duties and based on his designated ashram and varna. But clearly not. So Krishna says that what a great man does, common men follow. So Krishna himself says, I myself follow these injunctions, because if I don't, then the world will follow. See that I don't have to go to education, train myself, work hard in my specific area of expertise, become successful, take care of my family. These are duty-bound things that we all have to do. And Krishna says, as a great person, him being Bhagavan, he also follows this to set the precedent that that we must all follow. We have injunctions to follow. We have Vedic injunctions, family obligations. We have things to do, and therefore Krishna sets the example for us. For me, so what was really interesting is that Krishna, when he comes to this material world, he is operating completely under the pleasure potency. This was mentioned quite a few times that for us, we are conducted under the material potency, the external potency, Mahamaya, which is Krishna's external energy. Versus when Krishna comes, it's only for the pure fact that he wants to enjoy pastimes, which is conducted through personification of pleasure potency, which is Radharani. They conduct the enjoying pastimes of Krishna here, and he's not operating under the modes of material nature and Adi Bhautik and Adi Devik and the various ways of miseries that exist in this material world. Krishna's having fun. He goes to Vrindavan and he has a good time, plays with the cowherd boys and with the gopis and with his parents, and he enjoys a good time. He's not being forced upon. The demons are coming. It's not because he has done some karma and so now the demons are coming and now he has to fight, and that is his battle. That is Krishna's pastime. He has virya bhav. He wants to enjoy the heroism. He wants to fight. He enjoys. Krishna wants to fight. That is one of the rasas he enjoys, and so therefore he chooses to have that happen. He does that. So, but for me, I wanted to go even further than that, because Krishna has all these things in Vrindavan. He doesn't have to enjoy in the material world. Yes, Bhoma Vrindavan is the same as Vrindavan up in the Goloka Vrindavan. It is said that it is non-different. But then that means that Krishna doesn't really have to come here. If he wanted to enjoy pastimes, he can just enjoy it in Goloka Vrindavan. He doesn't really have to, necessarily has to come here on the request of the demigods. He doesn't have to come. There's no, Krishna's Abhigya Swarat. He doesn't have any kind of rules or above him saying that you have to come save the people. So for me, I thought it was interesting that Prabhupada is describing how Krishna doesn't even have to come here to fight the Dushkrita, the demoniac individuals. He could just do that like this. And also, when he says to uplift religiosity, he doesn't have to enjoy pastimes here. Krishna doesn't have to do that either. He can just enjoy in Vrindavan. Goloka Vrindavan is the epitome of eternal bliss and joy. And so why does he come here? And so I found my answer in Prabhupada is saying in the purport of verse Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, 2, 3.3, 34. Then the verse goes like this: Thus the Lord of the universes maintains. If you wanted to see it, it's 1.2.34. And thus the Lord of the universes maintains all planets inhabited by demigods, men, and lower animals, assuming the roles of incarnations. He performs pastimes to reclaim those in the mode of pure goodness. So then if you go into the purport, Prabhupada is describing how each of the entities in all the universes are under the modes of material nature that are conducted by Mahamaya, by Maya that is conducting this material world. And Krishna comes specifically in this universe and does these wonderful pastimes that he could enjoy in the spiritual world if he wanted to, but he specifically comes to show his amazing, sweet, lovable pastimes, transcendental pastimes, to attract those who have come to a little bit of a higher consciousness where they can now appreciate Krishna. And so Krishna is so loving, and he's so, out of his causeless mercy, he has no reason to come to even kill the demons, to even enjoy his pastimes here. That is his internal reason for coming. But even that he doesn't have to do here. He is Atmaram. Krishna is self-satisfied. He doesn't have to. It's not that the material world has some specific enjoyment that he's missing in Goloka Vrindavana. But Krishna comes out of his causeless mercy that he sees that so many living entities are suffering under the modes of material nature, under the threefold miseries, that based on their karmic action, their desires are uncontrollable, and so they're living into this web. And so therefore Krishna is seeing this, and to attract the minds of the living entities that have come to some stage of some level of goodness, of clarity, of auspiciousness, where they can appreciate this wonderful, oh, Krishna lifted the Govardhan. He's like a 7-year-old boy, and on his left pinky, this little boy is picking up this massive mountain. In those days, Giriraj was as the size of the Himalayas. Now we see a different size. But at that time, he was the king of the Giriraj. He's the Raj of the mountains, Giriraj. And so Krishna performs these magnanimous pastimes, killing of the demons at age 5. At just newborn, he's killing Putana, and he's killing Shakadasur, the chariot, the cart demon, and he's Trinavarta, and he's going in, he's a whole whirlwind demon, and Krishna's just nicely just becoming heavier than anything. And now he's falling to the ground. So these miraculous pastimes Krishna's performing, we're seeing that he's trying to attract. His main objective is, I can enjoy in the spiritual world, but I want to show you my transcendental activities. May you be attracted by such sweet pastimes and then come to me originally. Because in here, this material world, you're suffering. Inevitably, your material desires, everything that you're wanting is leading you deeper and deeper into more challenge, more dissatisfaction. And now Krishna is, he's showing that I would rather you come to me. But he has to attract, something has to attract the jivas. We're so much under the control of passion and ignorance that something must attract us to that. And so Krishna very kindly, he comes down and he displays his form. And so that is what I came to. And so now the big question that I had from this is that at the end of this purport of 39, Krishna is saying that, as a jiva, then we should always be chanting the glories of the Lord, remembering Krishna, hearing about Krishna, and by doing this constantly, we will be able to come to this conclusion of we have to remember Krishna. Our suffering comes from the fact that Jivera Swarupa Krishna Nityadas, that we have forgotten our position, that we are a servant, we have to remember Krishna at all times. Rupa Goswami's instruction is that we must always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. And so the root cause of our suffering is that we have forgotten this position. So my big question was going to be, what detracts us from remembering the Lord through chanting, hearing Shranan, Granan, Samshrayam, Chintayan, Shranan, hearing the pastimes of the Lord, Granan, hearing or chanting the pastimes of the Lord, and then Chintayan, meditating on the Lord. What is causing us to forget? Because we hear this all the time. I mean, every person ever in their classes, in their Bhagavatam class, Bhagavad Gita class, comes to the conclusion that Prabhu, the Yoga Dharma is to chant Hare Krishna. We have to do Shravanam, Kirtanam. And that is the only way to get out of this material world. So we hear this every day. And I'm speaking for myself. This is for my purification. We hear this every day, but what is causing us to forget this instruction on a daily period? Which why Prabhupada has so kindly set this system up, where every morning we do Japa, Tulsi Puja, Mangalarti, Japa, Tulsi Puja, Bhagavatam class, Darshanarti, Guru Puja. This everyday morning program, this repeated every day, because the natures we forget. So what is detracting us from remembering Krishna?
Hare Krishna. In my understanding, there are two types of Maya, it is said. Of course, there's Yoga Maya, Mahamaya, but Mahamaya is of two types, Prakshepatmika and Avaranatmika. So the Avaranatmika Maya, her function is to avaran, means covering up our consciousness. Just like the example is given is that of the mirror. The mirror, the dust is in the form of layer is covering the mirror, surface of the mirror all the time. So there is a constant cleaning required, right? So similarly, our consciousness, Chetodarpanamarjanam, every day is covered by the thick layers of Avaranatmika Maya in the form of mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's perfect. I was going to ask more people, but I'm looking at the time, and so we have to keep moving a little bit. But that is the perfect answer. Thank you so much, Prabhu. So the material nature, our Mahamaya, the external potency, it conducts this world based on the three modes of material nature. And that is Krishna stating that in Bhagavad Gita 14.5 translation. Material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. And when the eternal living entity comes in contact with the nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, he becomes conditioned to these modes. So by default, by nature, this living entity is pure. The mind is actually it is said that the mind away from these three modes his natural state is mode of goodness, actually, which is, when I found that out, I thought it was pretty shocking. Like, his mind is the one who keeps detracting from everything, and turns out his normal nature tendency is to be in the mode of goodness. And unfortunately, through the contact of the passion, the ignorance, this nature that exists in the world, the mind now desires and starts to plan for its passionate, fruitive activities, like, I want a big house, I want a big this, I want wealth, I want money, I want fame, I want glory. So the mind naturally, the soul naturally has no such desire. The soul just wants to be happy. Anandamayo bhyasat. The soul's nature is, I want to be happy. The mind convinces us through in contact with the sense objects that you need to, the way you become happy is through this. And that's why we need to purify the mind. And so what I really wanted to come into contact is that this idea of consciousness, like Prabhu said very nicely, that the consciousness becomes covered based on the material interaction with the material world. But I wanted to dive a little deeper into that in terms of, because we hear like, okay, Cheto Darpana Marjan, we have to clear the consciousness, and that is the only way by which we can, purify the consciousness. But I wanted to touch on the other side of chanting, yes, but what about the other 12, 14 hours that we spend? Because what is this consciousness is like a mirror. When we're chanting, we're cleaning it. But if our other activities are putting dust on this mirror, it's like you're doing a repetitive activity every day. You're working so hard in the morning to get up and chant, and you've done nice japa and with focus, with attention, with love, and you've cleansed your heart and you cleansed that chetana, the consciousness. But then if the next 12 hours of your day, 14 hours of your day are spent covering that dust, covering that mirror with dust, then we're not doing ourselves a service. We're doing ourselves a disservice. And so Krishna really goes into detail here with our engagement in the material world. And so specifically, if we can turn to Bhagavatam 11.13.4, where Krishna is speaking Uddhav Gita. To Uddhav, Krishna is giving some instructions. Yes, 11.13.4. And so here, Krishna is discussing 10 categories, 10 areas of activities and engagements in this material world. And these activities can be done in the mode of ignorance, in the passion, in goodness, in pure goodness. Like that is the nature of all of our activities, right? They fall somewhere within this If somebody's not familiar, I just realized goodness is where we are performing things out of duty. We have clarity. We are auspicious, like going to the temple, associating with people that are intelligent, like-minded, don't speak bad about others. Passion is where we're intensely focusing on our desires. I want something, so I will get it. So passion, right? People say, be passionate about what you do because you need energy. You want to achieve something, so that is passion. And ignorance is more of a state of lethargy, lack of appreciation, knowledge of what the material world is really like, and just laziness, lethargy, sleep, lack of knowledge. So these 10 areas, Krishna goes through each of them. So I'll just briefly touch. We don't have so much time. So agama, so the quality of literature that we are reading on a day-to-day basis affects our consciousness. So this translation is saying that based on how we are performing all these 10 activities, the modes of material nature become prominent in our lives. When we are in the morning, we're chanting japa, we feel very spiritually inclined, and then naturally as the day goes on, we kind of recede, and then we go into this state of forgetfulness of just watch Netflix or chill on the couch, and this is natural. Krishna has designed this material world in such a way where this is normal, and we'll talk about that. So the first area is, what are we consuming? The quality of literature that we are reading affects how we think, the consciousness that we have upon reading it. So are we reading materially passionate books? Are we reading books that are fictional and that detract us from remembering Krishna? Or are we reading literatures like Bhagavatam, like Chaitanya Charitamrita, like Bhagavad Gita, that are constantly reminding us of who we are supposed to be going towards? What is the purpose of life? Is the goal to be here, or is it to leave? So the quality of reading, the literature that we read, the things we read, whether it's the content we consume on internet, the articles we read, the news we consume, everything affects our consciousness. Remember, the consciousness is like a mirror, and whatever we're putting on it is covering it with dust. So when we read things that are making us forget Krishna, those things are covering that dust, and therefore it makes it harder for the next day than when you're wanting to taste Krishna consciousness and chant with love and appreciation, but this mode of passion is pulling us down. Ignorance is pulling us down. We're thinking of that rather than Krishna. So the quality of literature. Apaha, Krishna says, the water or the liquids that we're consuming. So the drinks, the substances, the food we eat, that all has a natural mode of nature that it comes to. And in the 17th chapter, Krishna is talking to Arjuna, and Arjuna asks, those people that aren't really spiritual and aren't really demoniac, kind of where do they fall in their spiritual activities? And Krishna describes that in each activity we can only see based on where they fall in the spectrum of material nature. Like, are they eating really healthy food? Then they're in the goodness platform. Are they eating very unhealthy food? Then they're passion ignorance. Are they performing donations in a good way to people that are going to utilize the money in a good way? Then we're performing things in the mode of goodness. So essentially what we're eating, each has its own pravritti, nature, it falls in one of the modes of material nature, passion, ignorance, goodness. And ideally we want to be filling ourselves with mode of goodness, because that is what brings us to the state of remembering Krishna. Our consciousness gets purified, and then we're conscious of Krishna. Krishna consciousness, that is the whole goal, right? So what are we drinking on a day-to-day basis? Is it offered? Is it purified? Our association, this is huge. Our association is important. It's the most important thing. There's a quote that if you show me the 5 people you're around, I can tell you who you're like, what you're like. And so our association oftentimes, not just on an active platform, but on a subtle platform also, it affects how we think, how we believe, what the things we believe, our parenting. Our parents teach us many things, and therefore that affects us as a child. The friends we have, their mentality, their identity, it affects us. So who are we associating with? Are we associating with people that are bringing me away from Krishna, that are bringing me closer to passionate activity and ignorance and drinking and meat and different things that are unfavorable for our Krishna consciousness? So who are we spending our time with? Desha, the place where we are living and spending most of our time. Where are we living? Is our surroundings, our home, filled with a space for Krishna to be favorably given to our children, to ourselves? Are we surrounded by devotees? Are we living in a situation where it is very challenging for you to, get in touch and appreciate Krishna? So even the people that we spend time with, the place that we live, and the one I mentioned earlier, I'm going quickly because we have not so much time. Kala is the time. So Krishna has separated the day into 3 sections based on the modes of material nature. So there's a reason why Prabhupada and all our acharyas, really, there's no hard and fast rules to chanting, but the emphasis is that why go against the grain of what material nature is giving us? So in the morning is a time of mode of goodness. I think Hanumat Prashik Maharaj said 2 to 10 a.m. is the time for mode of goodness. It's stronger. So then we can do activities like chanting, reading. We're more in the state of, I'm conscious of who I am, what my purpose is, who is Krishna, and this is my goal. And as naturally, I'm sure everybody here has experienced that as the day goes on, then we have to go to work, and then now we become engrossed in, okay, I need to earn money, I need to do this, I need to perform this task for my work. So that is our, that as the day goes on, this is how the nature is set up, where by the evening time, when we come, we're exhausted, we're tired, we want to just sit on the couch and watch a movie, watch something, read a book, just keep it easy, not too much engaging of the mind. Because now we're kind of in that day, the portion of the day that is now the ignorance part. We want to just keep it easy, sit on the couch, and relax. You know, that is mode of ignorance. And so are we maximizing the morning hours? Because that's when the material nature is helping us. It's already very hard to be spiritual. So now, why not take the natural circumstance of this world, that in the morning hours, the mind is more calm, the intelligence can be strengthened through reading morning sadhana. Kesha Maharaj, in a class recently I was listening, he was saying that every morning we should read Bhagavatam for 1 hour. And I was like, oh my God, Haribol, nowhere near that standard, but he's emphasizing the point that in the morning we need to maximize those hours. Those are our jewel hours, or gold hours, because the mind is not actively taking us away. So what are we doing with our time, kala? Karma, what kind of activities are we performing? Our activities on a daily basis, is it for Krishna? Is it for my own desires, or is it for me to just, is more inaction, it's not for me to do nothing? Where are we following the spectrum? And the reason we're going through all of this is to emphasize that chanting is very important. Without japa, without harinam, there's no way that we can come to the mode of goodness and pure goodness, and then Krishna can reclaim us and we have some attraction for his pastimes, like the Bhagavad Gita mentioned, Krishna mentioned earlier. But for us to be in a state of always remembering, we have to look at our activities not just when we're chanting, but outside of our chanting also. What the things are we eating, the things we're drinking, the people we're associating with, the content we're consuming. We're in a technology age. TikTok, Instagram, these things every day are bringing in some kind of information, some content that is flooding our consciousness. And therefore, when we partake in those, we fall down to a certain level of consciousness, and then it becomes an uphill battle. Because now we have to chant, because I want to chant with love and affection and not commit aparad. I want to chant with offenselessness. And so now I have to bring the mind up again. And it's like working out, but then eating a big meal after, and then working out, and then eating an unhealthy meal. And it's like we're making it harder for us than it needs to be. And then finally, birth. There's three more. Birth is the situation we took birth in. We have no control over that, but we need to be mindful for that in terms of our children. What kind of situation are our children taking birth into? Are they getting a favorable, are the appropriate samskaras being performed? Are they getting an appropriate household where they can chant and read and remember Krishna? Dhyana, what are we meditating on? This one's huge. What are we thinking about all the time? Is it about money, fame, glory, or is it about money, fame, and glory, but for Krishna? Right? Because the tendency is we have desires, and we don't want to discredit that, but at the end, the goal is how can we use all of this for Krishna? So who and what are we thinking about 24/7? So dhyana is very important. The mantras we're chanting, each mantra has its own, falls in a certain category. So very simply, Prabhupada has made it very simple for us. Harinam, Mahamantra. Chant Mahamantra, that is the ultimate pure goodness. It comes straight from Goloka Dhan, Goloka Prema Dhan. It comes from Krishna. So that is the mantra we need to be chanting. And then finally, samskaras. What are the purificatory processes that we perform throughout the life of a person? So there's 16 in total. One famous one is Upanayan Samskar. The one before birth is Garbhadan Samskar. So what kind of purificatory processes are we performing that the Vedas are giving us to help purify our consciousness? Again, these are supplementary. In the end, that Harinam is the method, but we need to come to the mode of goodness and pure goodness for us to then actually maximize. When we're chanting, we're feeling some appreciation for Krishna. We're in a state of consciousness where we can remember and think of Krishna. And I had some things more, but I think I'll just stop here because we're out of time. But just summarizing point, just when we're chanting, the goal is to develop that love for Krishna, but it makes it much more harder for us and for myself specifically, when we partake in activities that lower our consciousness actively, when we watch movies, when we watch certain things that bring us lower. And so naturally, Prabhupada says that, we don't believe in just giving up things. We want to add Krishna. But as we progress in our bhakti, as we're adding Krishna and we're developing more taste for Krishna, we also have to give up things that are unfavorable for our Krishna consciousness, right? In NOI, Rupa Goswami is very clearly stating that, to become anya bilashita shunyam, you have to give up things that are unfavorable for our Krishna consciousness. So the goal is to be Krishna conscious 24/7. That is the standard that the demigods that Prabhupada is giving us. And so to reach that standard, at some point we have to continue adding more Krishna consciousness, but also we need to drop things that are bringing us below that consciousness. Okay? Hare Krishna. Let's stop there. Anybody has any thoughts, questions, reflections?
Hi Krishna Prabhu, thank you for very, very nice class, very systematically presented. You brought up this very important point of, we're doing our activities in Krishna consciousness and what we're doing after and how important it is. And I really feel what you're saying in my practices, that I put all this effort during the morning hours, then again, amazingly, every day my consciousness degrades during the day. And it becomes such an uphill task every day. It's like fighting every day. And you were saying that, what is it? Are we doing activities in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance? So we should do something that helps us pick it up faster the next day. There's this other not other concept, but the concept that we have to do our duty, and you brought it up. We have to do our duty, but we have to do it for Krishna, where everything becomes Krishnized. But Arjuna was fighting a battle. He was killing people, but Krishna was right there. He was, always fully aware of Krishna. So then when we're doing, how do we, it could change, right? What we need to do, or if we feel like, let me experiment doing something which I feel is in the mode of goodness more. Is there any, how do you decide, okay, this is bringing me down, and let me just try something different?
Mm-hmm.
Because
So
I feel maybe you are on the verge of trying something different.
Yeah, so all of our actions, it's when we're reading the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's, like you said very nicely, that Krishna's telling Arjuna that you have to engage in battle. That's the whole book is written to tell Arjuna you have to fight. And from our lens, fighting is something in the mode of passion. That's something, footing fists, passionately fighting, killing people. This comes in the mode of passion, of aggression and action and intense emotion. So how do we reconcile these things? And so I think there's another element that is very important to take into account, is that's Arjuna's nature. So Arjuna's nature is naturally, he's a Kshatriya. And a Kshatriya is someone who is, by nature, they value justice. They perform activities in that realm of fighting, protecting, justice, guidance. And that's their nature. And so, because that is their varna, Krishna is describing very clearly that your varna, your nature is to be a Kshatriya. I'm not telling you to go sit in the forest and go become a sage and meditate on me 24/7 and on Paramatma. That's not your nature. So act in accordance to your nature. And so the missing element in our life today is that we have no idea what our nature is. We're not very clear into what our varna is. Where do we fall on the spectrum of Chaturvarnya, Maya, Shrishtam, Guna and Karma? We don't know our gunas. Our karmas are all Shudras. And so it causes a lot of conflict in our spiritual day-to-day life, because in the end of the day, most people are working because they want to earn money. But Krishna says don't do things for the result. But all of us, me included, are doing activities for the result, not for the action. There's no job satisfaction. There's no internal satisfaction we get from performing that activity. It's just, I need the result. And that's how the material world is kind of set up. And this is kind of how it goes. And so inherently, I'm just expressing there is a challenge to be able to remember Krishna at all times, is because we're so engrossed on the result. And we don't enjoy the process. Because when you're in your nature and you're inclined towards something that you like doing, you get energy from that. right? If you give somebody who's very extroverted the task of introducing and greeting people at the door, they get a lot of enjoyment from that. They're like, oh my God, I love this. I love getting to meet people, meeting with new folks and connecting. And so, but if you put an introvert on that, in that same kind of space, somebody who's less sociable, then when they're performing certain activities, they feel drained. Now then, where does the mind have any time and energy to think about Krishna? It was just, I did this activity, and now I feel so tired, and I just want to go sit and read a book. Or, I mean, that is also good, right? Reading Shastra is good, so now you can rejuvenate yourself by having some alone time with Krishna. But the point is that our material lives are very unoptimally situated, and so it makes it, we're fighting an uphill battle every day because we want to be spiritual. Our lives are not situated in a way where we're performing our duties, where then Krishna says, then you're not getting any karma. If you're doing your duty, then you're not getting karma. So in Kali Yuga, the challenge that we're facing is that the lack of clarity in terms of what we're supposed to be doing. Because if you like what you do, then you're not so attached to the results. You will do it regardless. You get joy from doing it. And then therefore, whatever comes afterwards, you have energy to do Krishna. It's seva. Now it's full-time Krishna consciousness. So that is the inherent challenge we're dealing with. And so when we're talking about trying things, the reality is we still have to perform our duties. Krishna doesn't want us, not that we shouldn't, Krishna also doesn't want us to now renounce your kids. Now your duty is to spend time with your kids and train them up to be Vaishnavas. So now we have to figure out, this is one line of thinking is, okay, outside of my work, what else do I do that rejuvenates me? If I can find something that rejuvenates me outside, not just my reading and chanting, but like I'm engaged. My mode of passion tendencies are being utilized, whether it's preaching, whether it's starting a website for Krishna, for Radha Kalachandji. I don't know, I'm just giving ideas. But the point being is we are not, most of us, especially for myself, I'm speaking, that we're not at a state where we can chant japa all day. This is just such a high level that Haridas Thakur and a lot of acharyas are at. For me speaking for myself, I cannot sit 24 hours and chant japa. My mind will be gone in like 20 minutes. 16 rounds is a difficulty, right? So we have to engage that natural tendency we have to be engaged in passion and ignorance in services that are still service, but is for Krishna, very clearly. Like, oh, I'm helping the temple develop a certain project. I'm helping, this group of people that are working in a certain place to do this for Krishna. Like, these tendencies have to be reorganized because it's very hard to change the nature of the work that we're doing. Because a lot of us are working in a certain space, and perhaps we're not in a stage where you can just renounce it, and it's probably not good to renounce it. But outside of that, what are we doing? Is it something that is rejuvenating us in the mode of goodness, pure goodness, that is still not directly reading and chanting? Because I can say for myself, sometimes getting myself to read and chant is just I have to pull myself. But what about something that is more in line with something I like doing? Like for some people, that's deity service. Outside of their time, they just love it. They naturally have Brahmanical tendencies. They would love to do that all the time. But they're working, so then they try to figure out, okay, how can I do more deity service? For Kshatriya, that might be managing more projects. For somebody who's in that kind of regard. If somebody who's a businessman, then do business for Krishna. But we have to understand there's a lot lacking understanding of our nature, and then from there it becomes very challenging. So as devotees, we're not optimally situated, but Krishna, that's what Prabhupada wanted at the end, right? He was saying 50% of my work is not done. I haven't established Varnashram yet. So there's some things that are people working on it, and so hopefully we have an idea of identifying what it is that we're supposed to be doing, help devotees live a better life where then they can actually focus on Krishna, ideally.
Mataji, to address your concern, I think about this a lot too. Like, you want to be in the state of goodness, but we're also participating in the world. And then what happens is we kind of create a problem in kind of isolating ourselves and creating just, within the community of devotees, because we then form a bubble which has its own problems later on. So what I've found is, how do we stay in Krishna consciousness while still interacting with the world? We have to get rid of the idea of duality. Yes, there are behaviors and actions that bring us closer to Krishna, but then there's also our dharma, which is also behaviors and actions devoted to Krishna. So whenever I find myself in an environment that is not conducive to Krishna consciousness, how can I alchemize that experience to help me gain Krishna consciousness? I can become curious about it. Instead of participating in it, I'm observing it. And from there, we learn about the outside world. If we're bridge builders, if we're bringing others to Krishna consciousness, we must understand them as well. And so going into these environments where people are doing things that are not conducive to Krishna consciousness, it allows us to understand them, become curious at least, and still maintain our protection. When we're in these environments too, like for example, I'm a musician, so sometimes I have to be in some very unsavory places like bars and things where people drink. Whenever I have worries or whenever I feel my thoughts are overwhelming me, that's when I chant. Yes, I take time every morning to chant my rounds, but I also use the chanting to stop the mind from thinking in places where it's unnecessary. That allows me to simply observe. And then the practice is not a practice, it's an application. It becomes your protection throughout the whole day. I'm getting overwhelmed, I chant, not because, yes, chanting will bring benefits, but first and foremost in that experience, it's going to quiet the mind, and the thought will become Krishna. And Krishna loves all his beings, all his creations. So trying to see love in the darkness, seeing light in the darkness is, I think, where the maximum potency of Krishna consciousness is revealed. And so, yes, we need to take care of ourselves. We need to definitely do practices in the morning when the quality of goodness is there, and also accepting humbly that we're not acharyas, that we have incarnated here for a reason. We have karma to work through, and Krishna brings certain unsavory experiences to us so that we learn, we can reflect on ourselves and ascend our consciousness. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. If I could just add one more thing, I know I'm looking at the clock also, but something for more practical measures. I remember having a conversation with somebody who's pretty financially successful, not a devotee, and I was asking him, how do you maintain that? How do you remind yourself to be your motivations, your goals? Like for me, it's like I'll be very driven a day, and then the next day I'll forget, and then I have to. The third day it'll be okay. Remind yourself to be driven again, and then it's like an uphill battle of motivation and discipline. And so, how do you stay motivated to reach a certain material goal? Like it's still we can still apply what his information was. He was saying that I have a reminder of what my main goal is everywhere. Like in my car, I have it saying his goal was to be a successful financial advisor. So it says a certain metric, like a certain position here and there in his house, in his room. Every day he looks at his goals. So for me, I realized like this principle can be applied in bhakti. How are we integrating our actions with some kind of spiritual activity? Like, do we have a poster saying Krishna or a picture of Krishna in our workplace? Do we have something that reminds us of Krishna? Do we maybe take a pause for 5 minutes in the work and just read an excerpt? We could read an article from Prabhupada. We can integrate it in a way where we remind it, okay, I'm working for Krishna. Because naturally the tendencies in passion and ignorance, you forget, right? Goodness means you're in the state of consciousness where you see things as they are. When you're in passion and ignorance, your state of being is just not in a space where you're remembering what is the purpose. And so how can you just add tidbits of like, oh, I'm working as a so-and-so because I need to provide for my family, and my money, I use it for Krishna service. So therefore, that is my reason. That is my purpose. And so then it brings our consciousness a little bit back up to goodness. So something might be you can apply. I know we're at time. I'll leave it up to you. I know some people had some other things to ask.
I don't have a question, Prabhu, but I just want to appreciate and express my gratitude that I'm always amazed that whenever there's a purport, like you dig into other purports and shlokas and put things into perspective where we can apply day-to-day life. I think in every class you do that, and it's amazing how deeply and differently you think and bring different perspective. So please continue to inspire us with your classes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mati. Thank you.
one devotee that liked watching a lot of Hollywood movies told me that he sees Krishna or through the movie, or like, there's things that remind him of Krishna, or anyway, but he said, I see Krishna through the movies. And devotees, like a lot, are often engaged. They like to watch, in America, football, soccer. In India, it's not unusual to see a brahmachari watching a cricket game on his telephone.
It's true.
So, is it like kind of black and white? You're thinking of, I'm Krishna conscious, and then if I do like what you say, chilling on the couch, then all of a sudden I'm not Krishna conscious? Or is somebody Krishna conscious all the time, even if they make relax, watch sports, or do some other thing that doesn't seem directly Krishna conscious, but they feel like they're Krishna conscious, even though they're not having the morning program 24 hours.
I think the beauty of Krishna consciousness is that as much it is ordained and given us Vedic injunctions, there's also an element of it is very personal. It's very purely personal. And at the end of the day, Krishna Prabhupada says we have to fly our own ship, our own plane. So when somebody is engaging in activities like watching cricket, I watch cricket, Hare Krishna. But I will tell you straight up, it's not because I'm thinking of Krishna while I'm playing cricket or watching cricket. I'm doing it for my own sense enjoyment. So that's an activity that I'm aware of. And so I think the intention and the action have to be in alignment. Like when somebody says, Krishna describes somebody's pandit as samadarshi, that means they're seeing Krishna everywhere. Prabhupada was the epitome of this. Everything you saw, money, wealth, limousines, cars, big temples, large amounts of money, big temples, grand deities, everything, his intention was, I'm going to use it for Krishna service. But we know that because he embodied that. But we don't always know that when we're seeing somebody doing a certain activity. So we have to be careful in terms of how we're judging, because we don't know. At the end of the day, I have no idea what's going on in somebody else's mind. Krishna is omniscient, I'm not. So when we're seeing a devotee engage in a certain way, unless I'm in a position of authority, guru, shiksha, or they've asked me a question, most likely it's not my place to give judgment. But if you are in that space, then you have to have a reasonable conversation like, hey, you've been doing Krishna consciousness for quite some time, and I would love for you to advance. And so your activity as a brahmachari, maybe watching a certain thing, is not appropriate, but tell me more. Do you feel like there's some way you're using this in Krishna service, or is it just for your personal self? So I don't have an answer per se, or maybe just a reflection in terms of like, proof you want to add, but we don't really know, because in the end, the intention is something that Krishna knows. I don't know. So we have to be very careful when we're passing judgment.
Hare Krishna. Wonderful class, Prabhu. I had several other comments, but specifically about this. If Krishna conscious, or rather ISKCON, is to be compared to a school, right? And Bhagavatam class, like everyday class in the school, right? So I remember one of my godbrothers, senior godbrothers, he gave this wonderful analogy. I don't know much about the education system here, but in India, like when we studied, there used to be 36%, the passing. That was the minimum. Below 36%, you fail. So just like all of us, we studied, and there are some studious, very sincere front benchers every day. Like you can see Jaishnav and Nayananvita every day attending the class and sincerely studying. So there are very few of those, and they may score 90 plus. But beauty of Krishna consciousness is that even if someone